Hey guys, welcome to Project Nine Oaks. We got another video for you today about this camper behind me. This has been quite a long project here at the channel, and it's been about a 2-year process, I would think. Here on the channel, maybe about the last year. Bought the camper about 2 years ago and just got started on it and dove in and started filming the process. And I think it's got been pretty successful for the channel. So I thought I would share some lessons learned on this build that maybe would help you if you're in this search and have the bug to try to fix up an old camper. So so why don't you stick around for this video. We're going to go through some of the key items that were kind of a struggle or high dollar items for this build that kind of maybe somewhat unexpected on my end, so maybe this would help you out in your build. So let's get started and we'll go through the list. Okay, so before we dive in on the specific items, I wanted to explain how we got this camper and our plans for it and some of the things that kind of I wasn't thinking about initially. So we went and searched a lot on Facebook Marketplace and looking at a lot of YouTube channels on the construction of these and people's renovating of their camper. So, we decided we wanted to do that same thing for our family. We're kind of at the stage we're going camping a lot and wanted to bring a camper instead of a tent. So we found a camper on Facebook Marketplace, and it was a good price, and the owner had already demoed the inside, and I think got in a little over his head a little too much, and so he was kind of ready to get rid of it and started something else that he could do. So it proved pretty good for us, kind of swoop in and take this project off his hands, and little did I know how much of a project it was going to be, but we were able to work something out, get it, bring it back here, and then I kind of sat on it for a while I was doing some research and kind of saving up, money for it as well. So then I finally dove in and started filming it. But a lot of the stuff that we were focused on when we bought it was, in general for the camper would be the size and some of the interior layout. If it had a bathroom, just make sure it had a bathroom and shower, and some space for the kids to sleep and for me and my wife to sleep. So that was kind of the basis for it. We didn't really know a whole lot. So there's a few things that I wish I had known before I had purchased this camper. I may have bought another one instead, or just had more questions to ask this guy and maybe come down on the price a little bit. So let's go into that list of some of the items that I wish I had known. But I just wanted to let you know that I was kind of like most people. I went into this not knowing much and was kind of maybe not focused on the correct things in buying a used camper from somebody. Okay, so for the first item that I wish I had known, this outside tin of the camper, when we originally bought it, it had a lot of patches put on, and I think it was with a bunch of old road sign or something that the guy had used. But what it had originally was some utilities that came to the outside. I think it had like a stove and stuff like that, and it had like some exhaust for that coming out the side, and maybe it was some damage or something. But it had a lot of patches with other types of metal, and we didn't really think a whole lot of it. We were like, oh, maybe just paint over it, something like that. But as we were diving into it, we really wanted it to look better than just that. So that was kind of oversight on our end. But to get this outside tin replaced, it was quite the ordeal. And I'll try to link to one of the videos either up at the top here to the removal and replacement of that siding. But they don't make this much, so I had to go and order this from a place in California, and it was shipped on a tractor trailer here. So with all of that, it was, I think, just over $1,000 for a whole side of tin. If you would, when you're checking on these, a lot of these have this kind of tin siding. Some of them are a full sheet, but this one was like rows of tin, and made it a little bit easier to deal with, I guess. But it was something I somewhat wasn't expecting to do originally. Like, our plan had changed. So when you're looking at this, make sure the siding is intact or relatively intact, so you can fix it and not have to spend $1,000 to replace it and get it to match and all that kind of stuff. So that's the first thing, kind of the first easy thing to notice and check when you go look at it. Okay, a second item to watch out for are the axles. So I have two here, and I ended up having to replace these. Really didn't know anything about axles, going into this, so just kind of did research online and ended up taking the old axles off to take them to a shop to get serviced. And my plan was just to get new bearings and brakes and all that stuff, But when I got there, he said that they don't make this type of axle anymore, and you can get parts, you had to special order them, but they're not readily available. And after talking with them, the suggestion was to just go ahead and switch the axles to something that's more readily available. And so if something happens on the side of the road, it's easy to get parts for it kind of anywhere that I'm at. And after thinking that kind of made a lot of sense, so I ended up going that route. We took measurements of the old axle, and I put the new ones on. And there's videos of that on this channel as well to kind of help you with that process. So quick way to tell the difference is the new axles have lug nuts, kind of like a standard wheel does for your car. But the old ones that I had, I don't know the brand, or I can't remember the brand, but they had lug bolts, and so the wheel fits onto the axle wheel housing there, and then there you have bolts that screw in instead of lugs that stick out and lug nuts. So that's the quick way to tell. I'm sure there's a term for it and everything, but that's just the way that I could kind of tell the difference. But ended up putting these new axles on, and it was about $1,500 all in with the axles and some of the parts and the bearings and things like that I had to get for the leaf springs, stuff like that. So anyway, $1,500 on an unexpected expense for this, so that wasn't great. But just something to think about in your build. If you got a double axle, or if you have a single axle, that'll obviously help you out. But just something to look at. Just take a look at these axles, and if it's something that you're willing to spend money on, then go ahead. This is something I would spend money on. It's just kind of a safety thing. So anyway, so that's the number 2 item. The items that I wish I knew when I bought this camper. Okay, so item number 3 for this camper was the air conditioning unit. So I kind of knew I was going to replace it. Just looking at the old one, it was pretty crusty, and I didn't really want that air blowing around this camper. So I ended up buying a new AC unit, and so there's the unit on top, and this is just the controls underneath. But what I kind of went in knowing that I would change it, but I didn't really understand the cost, and that cost is another $1,000. So that kind of rounds out the top 3 costs for this camper that were about $1,000 each. So you had the siding, the axles, and now the AC. So the AC itself is pretty easy to install. There's another video on that on this channel, so you can watch that. But really just the weight of it is the hardest thing to deal with. Take the old one off was pretty simple, and then putting the new one on was just the same way. So nothing too fancy there, but it was just something that I didn't quite understand the cost of. I was thinking, several $100s or something, just in my mind as I'm like at the camper thinking through the price I'm going to pay this guy. I was trying to, in my head, put ideas, trying to get ideas on pricing so I know what to offer them. And this one I kind of undershot quite a bit. So the AC unit, again, is something I wanted to switch out just from an efficiency standpoint, and I don't know, just felt better with the cleaner system blowing air around this place. So again, it's kind of a quick little item here, but $1,000 for a new AC unit for the camper that I wasn't expecting. Okay, so another item is these jalousie windows behind me. I think that's how you say it, but they are the originals to the camper. They were in pretty good shape as far as the windows themselves. The frames were just dirty. I had to clean them up. I just kind of took it all apart, cleaned it up, put new gaskets on them, and put them back together. The cranks on the windows, basically all of them do not work anymore, except for the bathroom one that kind of cranks open a little bit. Kind of needs some help to push it back in. But and then also when we're driving, we have to kind of tape them closed because they kind of open when we're driving down the road. But in general, they did pretty good. So I really didn't have to do a lot of research into these to replace them or anything like that. I did a little bit because we were thinking of replacing all of the windows to something more modern, but ended up not going that route. If you have windows that are damaged with like the frame itself or something like that, then it may be an issue to get replacements. I searched some, but I could not find a place that would sell windows like this anymore. And it looks like you would have to, get them off of another camper, and then you're having to talk, is it the same size window, things like that. I think the actual glass you could get replaced at a glass shop, but the window frame and everything is kind of its own deal. And it would be very hard to replace in my estimation. So When you're looking at this, just look at the windows to be sure that that's what you want and they're going to be okay. You're just going to take them off, clean them, and put them back on. I kind of lucked out on that. Really didn't go too hard into reviewing those when I was buying it. All right, so there you have it. Those are 4 items that you can take into consideration when buying your camper. Those are items that I did not take into consideration, so hopefully this would help you out in your search and your project. Again, just take the time to look through the camper and look through all the items that you're going to be having to fix up for this camper for your project. You know, I kind of want to say, like, if you're basically a generally handy person, if you know how to do some electrical and plumbing and just general construction, this is probably a project that you can do. It's not that's kind of my experience level as well, just doing general construction, general handyman type stuff around our house, and ended up just kind of winging it for this camper, and I think did okay job. So you know, did a lot of research on YouTube and was able to get things, you know, put together, I think, reasonably well. But you know, if you had kind of general knowledge of construction, I think you can do this. There's a few things that are a little bit different with, like, the plumbing that goes into the tanks and stuff like that. That's different. The DC lighting for the camper, the trailer lighting is a little different. Things like that, but nothing too difficult that you can't figure out. So once you get kind of that basic stuff done, then you can focus on the fun parts of, you know, the layout, the cabinetry, where the furniture is going, things like that. The kind of the finishing touches. It's going to be kind of a slow start when you get started. It seems like you got a long way to go, and you know, like I did, you want to think about blowing it up from time to time and just filming that and putting that on the internet. But ended up, you know, just kind of forcing my way through, and you know, it gets kind of slow at the beginning, but then once you start putting walls in and things, it kind of comes together pretty quick after that. So hope this helps you out in your project, and you can take these tips to help you out in your purchase of a camper to build, and maybe this saves you a little bit of money in the long run. So I appreciate everybody that's been watching these videos over time here. It's been fun to make them, fun to watch the progress and kind of go back and watch those old videos. I maybe have a few more to do on this camper, and then we have some other large projects around the property here. So thanks for sticking around, and we'll see you on the next one.